If you hold any XRP, pause whatever you are doing and listen closely because Jake Claver, the macro analyst who has been early on every major liquidity cycle for more than a decade, just said something that shifts the entire timeline. Not next year, not later. The window is already opening, and his words confirm what the institutional behavior has been hinting at for months. Welcome back to Solo Mega Machine, where we follow truth over noise, signals over hype, and macro reality over social media emotion. Before we begin, make sure you tap like so other XRP holders can see this. Subscribe to stay ahead of the crowd, and drop a comment telling me how long you have been holding XRP. Every single engagement helps push this information to more people who need it. And as always, everything in this video is for informational purposes only. Nothing said here is financial advice. Crypto is volatile, markets change quickly, and you alone make your own decisions. My job is to show you the signals the majority never notice until after the fact. So let's get straight into what Jake Claver just revealed. Jake is not dramatic. He does not chase hype. He rarely names specific assets. When Jake speaks publicly, it is because the liquidity environment is shifting in ways that only people at the institutional level fully understand. And this week he said something that immediately changes the way we look at the XRP timeline. In his calm, analytical tone, he made it clear that the transition in global settlement architecture is not something that is coming eventually. It is something that is happening right now. He did not need to say the letters XRP out loud. The context around it said everything. Jake tracks macro liquidity cycles that most retail investors never think about. When he points to alignment between gold outflows, bond market stress rising, foreign exchange volatility tightening, tokenization rails activating, and cross-burst settlement inefficiencies hitting their peak, he is pointing to the exact macro environment where a neutral bridge asset becomes not a luxury but a necessity. And the bridge asset that already has corridors, clarity, and enterprise integration is XRP. As I am recording this, XRP is trading in the low double-digit cent range, moving sideways, compressing, with volatility disappearing and sell-side depth thinning. That may look like nothing to the average person, but to someone like Jake, who studies liquidity positioning, that is the exact moment institutions prefer to quietly load before a structural move. The public sees boredom, the institutions see opportunity, and this is the moment where Jake's words become critical. He pointed directly to a macro timeline that lines up with everything we have been watching. End-of-cycle positioning, corridor upgrades, settlement rail transitions, and the shift from tokenization pilots to activation. When Jake highlights that window, it is because the deep plumbing of the global financial system is preparing to move, and the assets that serve as cross-border bridges move with it. This is where most people misunderstand the silence. They think nothing is happening. They think the asset is dead. They think the lack of headlines means there's no progress. But the truth is the opposite. In every cycle, XRP moves in the same pattern. Long silence, low sentiment, boredom, disbelief, and then an explosive macro-driven repricing that catches nearly everyone off guard. XRP does not move during hype. It moves during apathy. And right now, apathy is at its peak. Jake broke that silence at the exact moment the macro data lines up. He sees the same patterns across gold, bonds, foreign exchange markets, tokenized settlement networks, and liquidity corridors linked to XRP infrastructure. When these systems synchronize, it means institutions are preparing for a shift that retail will not understand until it is already in motion. And that is why Jake's statement matters so much. He essentially confirmed that the timeline everyone thought was far away is actually beginning. He confirmed that the transition is not hypothetical. It is underway. He confirmed that the architecture behind large-scale settlement is moving into a new phase, and the bridge asset that ties those systems together is positioned exactly where it needs to be. You are not hearing hype. You are hearing structure. You are hearing timing. You are hearing macro reality from someone who only speaks when the next phase is already unfolding. And this is just the beginning. Now that we understand the timing Jake Claver pointed to, we need to walk through the mechanism behind why this moment matters so much. Because most people holding XRP still do not understand what this asset actually does, And the truth is, the value of XRP
is not in speculation. It is in architecture. It is in the machinery of global liquidity. The plumbing underneath every currency pair, every settlement rail, every cross-border transaction that moves through the world's financial arteries. Jake always emphasizes one principle. When the cost of maintaining the old system becomes greater than the cost of transitioning to the new one, the switch is not a choice, it is a requirement. The legacy system is bloated, slow, expensive, and increasingly incompatible with the speed at which capital needs to move in a digital world. And right now, those costs are rising at the exact same time that tokenization is accelerating behind the scenes. This is where XRP enters the story. XRP is not designed to replace currencies. It is designed to bridge them. It exists to eliminate the trillions of dollars trapped in Nostro and Vastro accounts worldwide. Capital that sits idle, doing nothing, locked up, simply so banks can settle across borders. That capital is dead weight. Banks hate dead weight. Institutions hate inefficiency. And Jake knows that the moment tokenized settlement goes live at scale, XRP becomes the neutral asset that frees that trapped liquidity and lets it move instantly. This is not theoretical. It is already happening. Ripple has spent more than a decade building corridors, partnerships, and infrastructure to make this transition smooth enough for institutions to adopt without disrupting their existing systems. They have been connecting banks in Asia, payment providers in Europe, remittance firms in the Middle East, and treasury rails in Latin America, all preparing for the same outcome: instant settlement using a single, universal bridge asset. And this is why Jake Claver's timing aligns perfectly, because tokenization is not some far-off dream. It is already live in private environments. Government bonds are being tokenized. Money market funds are being tokenized. Commercial real estate is being tokenized. Even central bank settlement networks are experimenting with tokenized pathways. But here's the part Jake understands better than almost anyone. Tokenization is useless without a neutral settlement asset. You can digitize the world, but unless those digital assets can settle, transfer, and convert across borders at the speed institutions require, tokenization remains a fancy toy. XRP solves that final piece. And that is why the macro window Jake spoke about is so important. Because when the underlying data shows foreign exchange volatility rising, cross-border costs increasing, and treasury liquidity tightening, it means the world is approaching the point where the legacy rails simply cannot handle what is coming next. Right now, institutions are preparing for that transition quietly. You can see it in the clustering of wallets. You can see it in the shrinking sell-side depth. You can see it in the silent build-out of corridors that are not being publicly announced yet. You can see it in the way Ripple's communication shifts from public-facing marketing to behind-the-scenes integration. And Jake calling attention to this moment is essentially saying the architecture is ready. The environment is ready. The inefficiencies are hitting their breaking point. The switch is no longer theoretical. It is overdue. Most retail investors have no idea this is happening. They are watching charts, not infrastructure. They are watching sentiment, not settlement costs. They are watching influencers, not macro data. But Jake follows liquidity, and liquidity is screaming that the system is about to change. And this is why the mechanism matters, because once institutions decide to shift from a slow, expensive pre-funding model to an instant neutral bridge model, the adoption curve is not linear. It is exponential. It happens quietly for a long time and then suddenly all at once. XRP is the settlement layer built for that moment. And Jake's message is simple. That moment is no longer far away. The deeper you look into this moment, the more obvious it becomes that the market psychology right now is exactly what institutions want. Retail is tired. Retail is bored. Retail is distracted. Retail thinks nothing is happening because nothing dramatic is happening on the surface. But the surface is never where the real game is played. The real game is in silence, positioning, and misdirection. Whales know this. Institutions know this. The players who actually influence global liquidity know this. The truth is that the smartest money in the world accumulates when everyone else is frustrated. They accumulate during the quiet cycles, during the sideways months, during the forgotten stretches where nobody is paying attention. That is how they maximize upside and minimize risk. It has always worked that way, and Jake Claver understands this pattern better than almost anyone. He studies the behavior of liquidity providers, not retail speculation. He looks at how sovereign money behaves, how large custodians behave, how settlement banks behave, and how capital rotates when macro conditions reach inflection points. Right now, all of those signals are lining up in ways that only happen before a major shift. Whale wallets are clustering. Large transactions are moving off exchange. Settlement corridors are being prepared, not announced. Ripple is operating in silence, not spectacle. These are not signs of stagnation. These are signs of stealth preparation. Retail investors often make the same mistake over and over. They confuse lack of excitement for lack of progress. But progress does not happen during excitement. It happens in the shadows. It happens when nobody is looking. By the time the public realizes what has been building, the move has already begun. That is why Jake's words cut through the noise so sharply. He is not reacting to trends. He is identifying the shift before the trend even appears on the chart. And here's the part most people will not understand until it is too late. The moment the macro environment forces institutions to adopt faster, cheaper tokenized settlement, the value of a neutral bridge asset is not discovered slowly. It is realized suddenly because the instant institutions adopt a new settlement standard, the asset that enables that standard is repriced to reflect its real utility, not its speculative narrative. That reprice does not happen in small steps. It happens in one sweeping transition, the kind that feels instant to the world, but was actually building for years behind the scenes. Right now, we are standing at the edge of that transition. The silence is not a delay. The silence is the final calm before activation. The on-chain behavior, the macro data, the liquidity signals, the institutional positioning. Every piece of this puzzle aligns with exactly what Jake Claver pointed to. This is the moment where the old system begins to crack and the new system begins to reveal itself. And if you hold XRP, whether it is a small stack, a medium stack, or a life-changing stack, you need to understand something deeply. The value is not in the price you see today. The value is in the role the asset plays in the world that is being built right now. A world where capital cannot afford to move slowly. A world where settlement must be instant. A world where liquidity must be fluid and borderless. A world where a neutral bridge asset is no longer a theory, but a requirement. You are not early. You are not late. You are exactly where institutions prefer retail to be. Quiet, unsure, distracted. And that is why this moment matters, because the ones who stay focused during the silence are the ones who benefit when the silence breaks. If you made it to the end of this video, type the word prepared in the comments so I know you are part of the small group who actually watches, learns, and understands the truth beneath the surface. It helps the video, it boosts the algorithm, and it shows me who is here until the final seconds. Make sure you like this video so more XRP holders get the clarity they deserve. Subscribe to Matrix Millionaire right now so you never miss what comes next. And drop that comment prepared to lock in your spot among the few who truly see what is unfolding. The shift has begun. Stay ready, stay focused, and stay prepared.